Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Video Marketing for Business podcast with your host Tamara Thompson. And I'm really excited because I reached out to a special guest of mine. Actually, we connected a couple years ago and she came to my mind, just kind of popped in my mind the other day. And I was like, you know what, I wonder how she's doing. So I actually sent her a message and I thought I'd love to catch up and see what she's doing now. And her name is Shelly Ehler. And the reasoning that I had reached out originally is because I was doing research, because you guys know I'm all about video, media, exposure, visibility, broadcasting your authority, right? And, I had found her story online because she had created this product and she actually was featured on Shark Tank. And she has quite the story of what happened with that. But it's not just about what happened with that, but like how media and exposure really gets to help us get to our next point in life if it's focusing on that product or moving on to a new chapter. And I'd really like to have her share a little bit about her story and some of the lessons that she learned from that experience, but also what she's doing today, because we have some great things, in the works, because a lot of people had to shift during this time and really focus on figuring out products and things to help people with social distancing and other ways. So I'm going to have her take it away and share a little bit about that. But I just want to say thank you, Shelly, for joining us today.
Thanks. Thanks for asking. I love any opportunity to connect and to share my story. And I always love sharing it with you. So thanks for asking me, Tamara. It's nice to see you.
Yeah, so I'd love for you to just kind of dive in, just to share a little bit of the backstory of, your product that you had brought on Shark Tank and kind of a little bit of topper of that experience and kind of what you learned through that lesson. I know it was a lot for you.
It is. It's a big story. So
we'll kind of we got hours now. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you the reader's
What do you think the best? What would be some of the biggest points of it? I know the whole story, but what do you think would be the most monumental for people to know about it?
Sure. So little background. I was on Shark Tank in 2012. Okay, I was on season 3, episode 4. So it was a long time ago. And Shark Tank was not the big show then that it is now. And so there wasn't that much, there wasn't that much information about it. And it was hard to connect with other entrepreneurs that had been on the show before to really find out what had happened. And I didn't know a whole lot about it beforehand. So when I went on the show, I was very naive and really believing that everything that I saw on TV was happening exactly as you see on TV. That's not exactly what it is. And that's not how reality TV shows work, as you're very well aware of. But I was cast on the show with my Poncho Towel for kids. I have something really similar just right here. And it's just a simple towel with a slit in it that you can wear as a poncho. So when your kids are out at the beach or at the pool and you want to change them, you can put the poncho over them and change them in privacy. And I had that need. I had 2 little kids and we were at the pool all the time. And so instead of just kind of stripping them naked, I would, always take a towel and kind of wrap it like this so that they could change their clothes. Anyhow, I thought that there could be a better way of doing it. I came up with the idea. It was so simple. I cut a slit in a towel. I started making them locally. Every time my kids would wear them, I'd have all these moms come up and asking me where I got it and if they could get one. It continued to grow and grow. I eventually started selling them into local boutiques, started selling them into water parks. I got them on the Today Show. And then from there, I ended up being cast on Shark Tank. And it was so incredible the way that it all happened because it sounded like it just fell in my lap. I wasn't going after looking for it. It's like it found me, So it all felt very just divine, kind of the way that it showed up in my life. And just magical. I think that's probably the word that I would use to describe it. The whole thing felt magical. I went in to film that day. It could not have gone better. 3 of the sharks were fighting over me. One of them said, I think that it's worth more than you're asking. I'll give you more money. How often does that happen, right? I think it's worth more than you're asking for. Another one said, I'll give you exactly what you're asking for with less equity. And another one said, I like you so much, I'm going to write you a check right now. And so I got handed a check on the spot. It was just crazy. But what happened after that, when the camera stopped rolling, is that wasn't my reality. I never ended up getting to cash that check, and it was quite disappointing. But the thing is, I still had like a Disney deal that was kind of in the works, and my episode still was set to air a few months down the road. And I was pretty sure that just airing on TV was going to be what I would need to just make my product really take off. And I was, I think, naive enough to think that all I needed was that exposure and that was going to do it for me. And so I think that's probably one of the first big lessons is that I was not prepared for what that exposure brought to me. You know, I woke up that morning and the day that we aired, no one can prepare you for what it's going to feel like to have your life exposed to 6 million people. And, you know, I knew a lot of people will be watching. I knew it was going to be on TV, but it's a very strange feeling when all of a sudden you're so exposed. And thousands of people were emailing me, the social media, all that was coming in, and it was so overwhelming. And I was trying to balance all of that with sales and orders and trying to promote my product and the stress of not getting in the kind of orders I thought I was going to get in. And it was so stressful, and I was doing it alone. You know, I did not have a team. I had no marketing. I had no money set up to have any professionals help me. And that was the first huge mistake I made. Because I think that had I had the right people to help me and just try to bite a bullet knowing that it was going to pay off down the road, that would have made a huge difference. I had all this exposure coming in and I wasn't capturing it, Tamara, you know? And later on, that's when I realized, oh my gosh, I had 6 million people and so many people coming to my website that night, and I was not properly capturing it.
I've heard stories of people's like websites like crashing on the nights of their, you know, launch on exposure on the show. So with the amount, like, do you know like how many people were trying to come, like, do you know the numbers by chance of how many people were trying
it was huge. It was honestly huge. I used to know, and I don't remember because literally it was 8 years ago and I don't remember anymore. Yeah. It was huge. And the one thing I did know that I did get advice from someone who had aired the week before was to, we were going to host it through, I think, GoDaddy or something like that. And so the guy, I did connect to an entrepreneur who aired the week before, and he said, you are going to crash. Let me give you the name of the guy who hosted my site. You need a private server or whatever. I can't even remember what it was. And so we went with this, and we did invest the money in that, which was great because it kept he was able to keep our website up without crashing. We did have issues because people weren't able to browse their Explorer and stuff like that. There were certain issues that were happening, but we didn't crash. And so, but there's just so much, you know, when you're going to go on a show with that type of exposure, there are so many things to do, and you cannot do it alone, you know? And so
I've heard similar stories from some of the other gals that I've connected with that have been on the show. A lot of them had a similar aspect of like, man, I really should have gotten more team members or try to figure out some support during that push, you know, trying to figure out what makes sense or trying to go out and get some additional cash flow somewhere to help with that product creation and push, because you were making things all locally, right? Like it was everything was local, like on the creation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when that show aired, I was still making them all by myself. Yeah. I had one other woman that I hired part-time to come in, and she would come a couple days a week to help me sew. And she and I were sewing everything. We were just waiting for the show to take off and get this, you know, money coming in that then we could start hiring other people and start farming it out. Well, that just didn't happen. Another misconception really about being on a TV show like Shark Tank and having this amount of media attention, everybody thinks right off, oh, forget it. I mean, you get on a show like Shark Tank, your business is golden, all that type of exposure. You sell so many, and it's not the truth. You know, the truth is, because I network with so many of the Shark Tank entrepreneurs, and I actually started a private Facebook group there's hundreds of us that all network together. Oh, and the true reality is not everyone, you know, Actually, very few people really explode their products. Yeah. Not everybody sells that well, because this is not a shopping network show. This isn't QVC where people are there looking for things to buy. It's an entertainment show, right? When I went on the show, I was there selling my towel. But if you go back and if you were even to watch the episode, you'll really see they highlighted me. It was like I was selling myself more than anything. And I think my biggest lesson that I learned from it, because I felt like it's such a huge failure when I didn't sell all of these towels, right? I mean, I sold every single one that I had made. I just kept thinking I was going to sell, all of thousands and thousands of towels. Yeah. Why I thought that when I didn't even have thousands and thousands of towels, but I just thought it was going to be this overnight success. And when those type of orders weren't coming in, I felt like a huge failure. But then when I went back to check the emails of everybody that was reaching out to me, literally over 1,000 emails in my inbox, letter after letter after letter said, Shelly, I saw you last night and you inspire me. You give me hope. If you did what you did with what you had, I know that I can do it. And I've had this dream for 20 years and I saw what you did. So now I'm going to try it myself. Letter, email after email. You give me hope. You inspire me. You give me hope. And I had this huge aha moment when I said, oh my gosh, you thought you were a failure because you didn't sell a towel, but you weren't on Shark Tank to sell a towel. You were on Shark Tank to spread hope. And you did. You were so successful. You spread hope to millions of people. And that put me on a whole different path, because all of a sudden I started getting speaking opportunities and people saying, wow, I really love your story. It's really inspirational. Would you come to our women's conference? Would you come speak to our class of entrepreneurs? And I just found this new passion for sharing my story and for inspiring people. And that led me into coaching and things like that. So it's put me in a whole different path, which is one thing I know is that there are no mistakes,
Yeah, they always say that you don't fail. You're learning, yes. you're falling forward, or what right. They would say on that side. Like I never use the word like I don't ever feel like I'm failing at anything. I'm always like, oh, I just learned something. I just learned a big lesson there. Like I know what not to do or what right. I could do to shift during this time. And that's what you did. You shifted and you really you were inspiring people. And that's what we do as entrepreneurs. You go in, like you said, people aren't there to buy products. I would watch Shark Tank because I'm an entrepreneur and I was always intrigued about knowing numbers and business aspects. And yeah, I'm a geek on that side. Yes, I would definitely go check out a product and help support if it's something that I would utilize, but like you said, it's not like being on QVC, which I don't really watch. If I want to go buy something, I'm probably going to go to Amazon or something in my generation. That's just what I do. If I see something, I'm going to buy it, and I'm going to support local businesses as much as I can. I'm going to support entrepreneurs that have been on shows and TV because I understand their pain. I understand things that they've gone through. And I totally understand the fact of media putting people out there and the misconceptions that people have had being on shows like Shark Tank or just the media in general. There's a lot of misconceptions because the way that networks position, things even within the current times now, they have their views and opinions and they're going to show those aspects of things of what they believe is really happening or making people have that hope or drive or try to find something to go after, It really is that people don't see the behind the scenes that we do as business owners. There's a lot of learning lessons, a lot of pain, a lot of, trips and falls and get back up and brush off and then continue to go. But, every little thing that I've gone through, I know for myself as an entrepreneur, when I've, had that learning lesson moment, which has been many over the years, mm-hmm. but I've always been grateful for it. I've been grateful for the opportunity to grow, in my mindset, in my personality, in my business, growing my team, learning to delegate. If you had that opportunity to delegate right from the get-go, I mean, you can always imagine of where that could have been, but it was meant to be on this path that led you into speaking, led you into life coaching. And now I'm excited because you actually are taking even a newer direction now that you've been studying this last year. And I'd love for you to kind of share even what that is doing for you, where you kind of learned how you wanted to do something even different now at this time. Can you share a little bit about what your focus is coming up here?
Sure. Yeah. I am thrilled with my new passion, which is hypnotherapy. It's clinical hypnotherapy. And, there are a lot of misconceptions about hypnosis because most people don't really know about hypnosis, and their only exposure to it is sort of like a stage show, right? And so when I say, oh, I'm a hypnotherapist, I'm a hypnotist, they're like, oh, are you going to make me cluck like a chicken? And I'm like, no. Hypnotherapy, think like stop smoking hypnotherapy, not bark like a dog hypnotist, hypnotherapy. So it is a very, very powerful, safe way of helping people to change their behaviors or habits. And it's very effective in treating so many different things. Right now, I have certain clients right now with driving anxiety and with helping people with more confidence and stuff like that, test anxiety. There are so many different things. I have a specialization in smoking cessation, so I can help someone stop smoking in just one session. And we can help people with weight loss and with any type of vocational or avocational self-improvement. So it's exciting and I absolutely love it. I've been a life coach for several years, and I was kind of getting to the point in my coaching where I was like taking my clients as far as I could take them, but I wanted to be able to there were some blocks that I wasn't able to always get through. And so hypnotherapy is that new tool that I've added to my basket that's able to kind of take someone and move them through those blocks or limited beliefs and able to help them achieve their goals as quickly as possible. So I love it. I am just like the biggest fan of hypnotherapy. If you have never tried it, you need to. You are missing out because it's a really special experience.
Well, I'm happy for you. I'm happy that you're able to find that next step in your path and how it's all just kind of evolved from different things leading up to this. And we'll be able to put more in the show notes and description, kind of how people can connect with you, of course, through different things too. But I really want to share something that you and your husband have kind of created like as an experience special. I thought it was like the coolest idea ever. Like after you showed me, you have something else that's kind of like a side product that you guys have been working on. And it really makes sense, especially during this time with social distancing and other things. Like I was like, wow. I was like, now that product could be booming definitely during this time too. I'd love you to share kind of what you're up to with this fun product that I was like, okay, you could have had that person sit in on your podcast right there too.
Right. So, obviously you can tell I am a consummate entrepreneur, and I always have ideas and different things going. And actually, we've been doing this business on the side for probably about 10 years. I got the idea when two of my best friends were getting married at the same day. Okay. And so one of them was getting married in Napa and the other one in Los Angeles, and pretty much at the same time. And obviously there's no way I'm going to be able to be at both weddings, right? I go to the wedding in Napa, but I kept thinking in the back of my head, gosh, how could I be at that wedding in LA with like all of my friends from college? And I kept thinking, I'm so creative. I've got to figure out a way I can get it to that wedding. I'm going to get somehow that wedding. So I had my husband, we owned a printing business at the time. And I said to him, take a picture of me. I got all dressed up, put on a cocktail dress, did my hair, did my makeup, held a glass of wine, had him take a picture of me. And we mounted it on a piece of like foam board and cut it out like a cardboard cutout. And I gave it with my girlfriend to take to the wedding. And she brought me to the wedding with her. And so here's a one that this isn't one from the wedding, but this is a cardboard cutout of me. And so she took it to the wedding. And I have to tell you, I was so excited. Like I could not wait to the next day to hear, everybody's reaction. And my friend called and she goes, oh my gosh, you were the biggest hit last night. And she goes, you had probably more fun than anybody there that night. You were pretty wild. And actually, I kind of don't even want to tell you what happened like to you late night because people, you got a little wild, right? So I was just laughing, loving every single story. Found out I'm dancing on the dance floor with grandma. I'm like doing Hava Nagila on the chair.
Did they send you photos and stuff?
Photos. It's hysterical, right? So down the road, when my husband and I were looking for another business idea, I said, hey, do you remember when we sent that cardboard cutout to Jill's wedding? I'm like, let's do that. So we've been doing that ever since. And we got a nice little push with it. I got it on the Today Show a couple years ago, several years back, and we got a nice little bump from that, which was fantastic, and it really helped launch the business. And we've been rolling ever since. But what's been really nice is that since the pandemic, right, and everybody's locked at home, especially in the beginning of the pandemic, I said to my husband, hey, we can't leave the house, but, I can go anywhere. I can visit my friends. And so we sort of started marketing, like at Mother's Day, can't be with your mom? Yes, you can. Father's Day? Yes, you can. You can be with Dad for Father's Day. And we got really busy at graduation, which was great. And so now we're getting ready to start talking about Thanksgiving and Christmas, because, hey, this is the first year. Tons of people are not going to be able to be with their families, and, a lot of people just, even if they can't, some people just don't want to risk it. Our family's not all getting together this year, and rightly so.
Same.
So
Same
here's an opportunity. What a fun
how can
gift.
how can people order that? Do you guys have, what's the name of the product or the site?
Yeah.
Like, is there a specific URL they can go to?
It's called allblownup.com.
Oh, I like that. That's cool.
Yeah.
It's catchy.
Yeah.
All blown up.
Yeah, allblownup.com. And I'll tell you, it is the funnest product. It's just, so the mission of our company is spread joy. And that truly is what we do with every product. It is about spreading joy. Our world needs so much more joy, right? And so this is such a joyful product. Someone gets something like this, like, you are not going to crack up, and just sit and have coffee in the morning. Or, look, you can even have friends come by. I hang out with my friend Michelle every now and then.
That's awesome. Yeah, so
yes.
you can basically have like friends, family. You could blow up an influencer that's now your BFF. You could do a lot.
We can hang out. We can have lunch.
Think of all this stuff that people could actually utilize. I think it would be actually a fun product for actually influencers too, to get products of themselves for like TikTok or Instagram Reels, or doing some fun stuff. Like, I bet that you could actually get that product in front of some of these influencers, maybe even send out some of them so they could be an affiliate marketer for your product. I think that would be really cool. Like, you think about, especially some of the younger millennials that are like, doing stuff, and they're doing stuff, or even other entrepreneurs like doing things, like, you could really get some traction on, I think, like Instagram influencers, or even some of the TikTok influencers out there, like really trying to like figure out a way to get that out there to some of these different audiences, especially like you said, like with the graduations, a lot of those happened, but now like you got holidays and things like that, like it could really take off for you even more during this time with the holidays. I think, like, here's grandma at the Thanksgiving table, like it could really go well, because you can set up like an affiliate link for these influencers on there. Even some of the younger generations, I think, would really take up with that and show their parents too. So kind of cool.
Yeah, great idea for sure. I agree.
Yeah. I love that. Well, how else can someone connect with you? What's the best way? Is it just through like your website or information? We can always provide that in the description, but anything else you got going on that you'd like to share or to connect with you?
Yes, I'm just launching my new website. It actually should be up tomorrow, I think. And so we're putting the last finishing touches on it right now. It's yourheartguide.com. That's my website. Yeah, yourheartguide.com. And that's my, you can contact me. Everything is there for hypnotherapy. And then in terms of the cardboard cutouts, it's allblownup.com.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you just taking some time to reconnect today and just to share a little bit about your journey. I think you have just a great story. And I think that's one of those things that people need to understand too, that not everything is what it appears. There's misconceptions everywhere, but that we're all on this life path. And by going through these experiences, it really does take us to where we should be in our life path. And I truly believe that no matter how hard some of the situations are, I think you have some great learning lessons that you went through, and look at where you're at now, doing something that you love, and you've really found something. And I'm excited for your next step with your new business model too. So
yeah, thanks, Tamara. I appreciate it. And you said it earlier, and you completely hit the nail on the head when you said that you've gone through rough times, but you're grateful for it. And that's the key. Yeah. When you can be grateful for it, with whatever that doesn't work out, when you can still be grateful for it, that's where you get the blessing. Because with anything that doesn't work out, with anything that you think went wrong, there's a lesson to be learned. And when we continue to push against it, and we continue to not want to look at it and to blame other people, and it was wrong, and call it wrong, and call it wrong, and call it wrong, you miss an opportunity to get the lesson. Yeah. But when you accept what it is, and if you can even be grateful for it, you'll find that an incredible blessing shows up in your life, and you get the lesson, and it's so profound. And then you move forward having gotten that. And when you get that, you realize that there was no mistakes. It actually worked out perfectly. So so it's really good stuff.
I think it's one of those things, like I wake up every morning, and I always say to myself, like, I want to wake up in gratitude every morning, because it's the way that you wake up more with a positive mindset. You know, you wake up, maybe you meditate, maybe you go for a walk, maybe you drink your whole bottle of water, maybe you have your cup of coffee, whatever it is that you're doing or grateful for. You set that routine and that intention to keep a positive day ahead of you too, because a lot of people, I think, get stuck in these moments where, you know, if you don't find yourself grateful for something, even being grateful to be alive, or being with your husband or wife, or having your kids, or, you know, these experiences, like, we're all grateful for something. And just when you wake up in gratitude every day and focus on the positive side of it, even if things and bumps go through your day, like, you know, I read the 4 Agreements years ago, and
awesome.
That book, like, changed my life. Like, it was such a simple concept that just most people don't even live by. Like, but it's like, when you do, and you focus on those things, and when you decide not to react, you know, to things, and you take a deep breath and step back and look at a bigger picture on how, you know, if you, let's say in business, you receive an email and you're like, you know, don't take something personally, because you can't necessarily read into words on text when some people may be blunt, or, you know, harsh or straightforward. You never know what someone's actually saying, even through like text messages and stuff like that. So when I read the 4 Agreements, I was like, every time I felt anxiety in something in my life, or I felt like felt like I was going to be offended by something, I was always like, okay, I'm like, obviously, you know, I don't want to take things personally, like, because I don't know what's going on in this situation. You know, I always be impeccable in my word, always do my best, and don't make assumptions. That's like the biggest thing. I think people do that, and I'm one of those blunt people, like with people on my team and stuff. People know me now, but I'm like, do you know that for a fact? And they're like, well, no. I was like, well, then step back, because you just made an assumption on something. Like, it's just the way I am, and I approach people kindly, but that, like, everything in our life, like, many people make assumptions and take things personally daily. And when we remove that and step back from a bigger picture in gratitude and think more positively, our whole mindset shifts, and our whole body and everything else with us just like clears the energy. So because people don't always understand that we're holding energy, we are energy, you know? And so, and that goes with us everywhere. It goes in the room with our family. It goes in the room with our coworkers. It comes in on a podcast interview, you know, it's going across, you know. So it's like, that's one thing that I've really learned from was that book years ago. And I just kind of stuck by those 4 agreements. I know he came out with a 5th book. He put a 5th agreement in there, but that was really the one that got me started. Mm-hmm. And then we had a client that taught us more about gratitude circles. So every time that, now I know we're doing social distancing now, but we used to do gratitude circles whenever we would meet with our clients and people, just like right off the bat, we'd start with a gratitude circle of what we're grateful for in this moment. And everybody in the room, even if they're introverted or like scared, like we allowed them to feel comfortable to go through and just express gratitude first before ever stepping into any situation of work. It was just something that we just started doing since being introduced to that by one of our clients, and it just kind of made sense to live that way, you know, put that positive energy out there. And I know you're really passionate and you're about what you do, and you live in gratitude too. I know that as well. So just appreciate you for being here today. So
well, thank you. I'm truly grateful. I've loved every second. It's been really nice.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for tuning in for another episode, and I will see you all next week. And thanks for watching this video. I really appreciate you guys taking time to check this out. For those of you that feel inspired, want to subscribe and ring the bell, go ahead and do so, and definitely check out more videos just like this one over here. Tap the screen, and I'll see you next time.